And welcome to yet another episode of our new segment, In the Know. Here at 25 News, we want to make sure you are staying informed about the issues that could be affecting you. So today we're learning how to properly administer CPR and use an AED as well. Joining us today to show us how it's done is RN and clinical education scholar CJ Morris from OSF Healthcare. Welcome, CJ.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and I see you brought a friend with you.
This is Annie.
Okay. Well, welcome. Welcome to you both. So this is a life-saving skill, and it's something that everyone should know.
Absolutely. No one is too young. I teach from preschoolers, just showing them, all the way up to elderly. So.
Wow. So yeah. So can you start by showing us how it's done?
Absolutely.
How do we properly administer CPR on someone?
So like you mentioned, I think everyone should have this life-saving. There's classes offered throughout the region, the state, everywhere. And as far as the CPR, there's lots of different levels. So you can do bystander CPR only. It's a little intimidating. People think they have to do all the compressions and the breaths. But even just compressions can make a difference in someone's life at that point. So as far as compressions, the big things you want to make sure you're pressing hard and you're pressing fast, which is why I also highly recommend the AED, because it gives you those prompts and actually keeps you in rhythm. You'll see when I turn this on. Once we get to that CPR part, it prompts you and kind of keeps you in pace of what that person needs at that moment.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a guide.
It's absolutely a guide, and it walks you through everything. The AED itself is another very intimidating piece. They're throughout our community. Churches, schools, cafeterias, restaurants all have them. I think people are a little intimidated. The studies will show that about half of the people in the community that arrest will get bystander CPR, and of those, only about 18% will get an AED. And if they do get an AED, it increases their likelihood of surviving by 2% or more at times. So again, it's one of those things that can be intimidating, but it walks you through. And I brought two kind of examples because the other intimidating thing is out in the community, the bystander AEDs are all a little different. So, but the prompts are all the same and the steps are all the same, which is the great, whether they're small or a little bigger, the guides are the exact same. So yeah. So I'll kind of show you, walk you through if Annie here was having a bad day and we were out somewhere and she arrested, which is basically just means her heart either went into a rhythm that's not compatible with life or stopped altogether, then we would want to check her responsiveness. And it's kind of, through the CPR is hard to learn in a short amount of time. That's why I highly recommend everyone take a class. But checking for that responsiveness, and out in the community, if you're not sure, it's okay to go ahead and start that CPR. It's not going to harm them. If they don't need it, they're going to let you know that it hurts. And at that point, you could stop. So you would go ahead and start your compressions. And here's kind of hard to demonstrate the proper techniques where we're at here. I would really want to put Annie on some kind of hard surface like the floor.
Do you want to move her to the floor? Or?
We don't have to. No, for this we can totally, because I'm more focused on that AED. But for here, I'd want to make sure I was doing my good compressions. What's great about all the trainings when you go through it, and Annie has one here too, is there's a feedback device. So when you go through the trainings, your instructor can let you know how you're doing. So our feedback device lets us know, are you going deep enough? Are you going fast enough for what Annie or your victim, as we call them, would need it at that point? And the nice thing too is while I'm doing CPR, hopefully somebody's getting that AED. So if you're out in the community, you see somebody getting CPR and you think, oh, when I walked in, I noticed that AED on the wall, go ahead and go get that and bring it to them. So while I continue to do CPR, someone's going to put the AED on. The big thing we teach in all of our cardiac classes is the less time you come, what we say, off the chest. So the less time I'm interrupting those compressions, the better outcomes for our patient or our victim. So while doing CPR, someone would bring the AED. And again, like I mentioned, whether I'm working with this AED or that AED, the steps are pretty much the same. The first thing we want everybody to do when the AED arrives is to turn on the AED. So keep your compressions, but if I'm running the AED, I'm going to turn it on. Now this one I'm not going to turn on quite yet because they are rather loud. So to kind of show you some steps, but I will turn it on so everybody can see how easy it is to save a life using an AED. So once I turn it on, it does some little self-checks, is why we say get it on, turn it on immediately. And then within my container, I'll have patches. patches. Now, we have adult and pediatric patches, so when you take those BLS classes, they'll talk a little more about that as far as what patches to use. But here for Annie, because she's an adult, I'm going to use these adult patches, and I'll kind of hold them this way so you guys can see that they make them very easy and have pictures on them.
It tells you where to put them.
Exactly. Okay. So, yep. So I'm going to look. This one says I'm going to put it here. And the setup for these is truly so the electricity goes through Annie's heart in the right area. So when somebody needs a shock, it means that their heart, we're truly stopping it for a second in hopes that it starts back in a better rhythm, as we call it. So these, the way we set them up, is indicative to make sure that it's going through the right path.
Got it.
All right, so once I have my patches on, and of course they're always in a knot when you get them, so once I have it on, I will go ahead and turn this on so you can hear it. We would have already turned it on as I was getting my patches, and then it makes it very easy. Some even have an arrow. So you'll hear she's analyzing.
Touch the patient.
This is important that everybody steps back from the patient. Even the littlest tiny bump may pick up as a heart rate. It's going to tell you whether or not you need a shock or not.
Charging.
So this one said we do. You can still do a few compressions until it tells you to back off. Now it's telling you to stand clear.
Shock now.
Once they're ready, and I'll hold this so it's not as loud. Once it's ready, what I love about the ones you're going to find out in the community is most of them light up and flash right where you need to press. And it'll tell you.
So
press
it says
the orange
ready,
button.
ready for compressions.
The really important part at this point, this is electricity. I want to make sure I'm not touching the patient, you're not touching the patient.
Right.
If they are on something, nobody's touching that as well. So I'm clear, you're clear, everybody's clear. Once we know that, then I can go ahead and press it.
Delivered.
Also, the community-based ones, most of them have what we call a metronome. Hear that beeping? That's the rate I want you to go when we're continuing CPR. So it keeps you on that pace so that you're delivering as many beats to that heart as you need.
Press like that.
You got it. And it's, if you interlock, and we'll give you a chance if you want, interlock here. And then you're going to press down fast and hard. Coming
on beat.
Yep, on beat
on
to your,
yep. Okay.
Want to give it a try?
I do.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's been a while since I've done this.
That's okay.
So like that, right?
You got it. And a little more towards right in the center of her chest. Right. There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
And just...
Yep, and I always tell everyone kind of lock these arms, gives you a little more strength in your back when you're coming in.
Okay. So.
You can also, I'm not a singer, you don't want me singing, but Staying Alive
Me neither.
is the song.
That's what I've heard.
Yep, or all the single ladies, or those of you that have children and you love the song Baby Shark, that is also keeps you at the same rate.
Those are
so yours go a little bit quicker.
Okay.
There you go, Staying Alive, there you go.
Gotcha.
Good job.
Okay.
And the community ones also will count down and tell you when it's time to take a break and analyze again. So this AED will actually just say analyzing patient like it did in the beginning. At that point, everybody steps back again. It'll tell you if you need that shock. So it keeps you on track time-wise. So somebody's not having to say, oh, we haven't, taken a break to see if Annie needs a shock again. So that's the other great thing about the community ones. So yeah, even without training, it really walks you right through what you need to do for that patient.
Right, and that's it's hard to get it wrong with something like this.
Correct.
It tells you what to do. So
yes, it's still intimidating, which we fully understand as healthcare workers. So we train, anybody, anytime. So, if you ever want to know, usually if you just find a healthcare provider, they'll kind of walk you through it because we truly feel if we can just save one person's life by teaching someone this skill, well worth the time.
Absolutely. And people can go to OSF for training?
Yes, we have BLS offerings. American Red Cross does. There's so many community partners. Even there's people who will go out in the community and do it who are BLS providers from OSF. So you don't have to come to the hospital. If you reach out to one of them, we can schedule a class. I have done daycares, fire departments, schools. So you just have to reach out and find that person.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much, CJ, for coming in this morning, and Annie.
Yes.
This was
she's quiet. She's a little on the quiet side.
She's very, very modest.
She's
very
quiet,
humble. Well, thank you both for coming in. This was very helpful, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have a strong passion for this, so thank you for the opportunity.
I can tell you do. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Stick with us.